So there's somebody running like power tools in the background. We'll see how loud that is, but whatever. So I am a bit late to this, but a while ago, not exactly sure how long ago actually, but a little while ago, Mark Lawrence did this thing where he gave some humans and ChatGPT 5 a prompt for a short story or a piece of flash fiction and asked them both to uh, write stories based on this prompt. I learned about this just now from Brandon Sanderson's live stream from like Dragonsteel, which I expect is how many other people also learn about this. That's why I'm so late to this. Um, well, the people who are participating in this are all published authors, published well-known authors. I do not know who is in this aside from Robin Hobb. If I do know other people, I don't remember. Robin Hobb is in this, as well as a couple other authors. Now, I have not read Realm of the Elderlings, and I certainly intend to read Realm of the Elderlings, and yeah, it's definitely something that I want to read, but I do not have the advantage of really knowing Hobbes' writing style very well. I expect that that would be a pretty noticeable advantage. Now, we are going to read these, and by we I mean I. I'm going to read these and see if I can tell which ones are AI and which ones are human. I'm not actually super confident. I think not that long ago I would have been reasonably confident in my ability to do this, but honestly I'm not. Now, I will say that does not mean that AI art is of equal quality to humans, to human art. I do not by any means acknowledge that if I cannot tell, that means that ChatGPT can write as well as an established author. And the reason for that, which was also acknowledged by everyone I've heard talk about this, meaning Mark Lawrence, who organized it, and also Sanderson, both of them acknowledged that flash fiction, very short fiction, is a relative strength of AI, of AI writing. It is relatively bad still at producing long form content, novels, stuff like that. And there's no doubt that at the current state of where ChatGPT or something like that is, if you read something like really good on a, you know, on the basis, on a line by line basis, or just really good generally, I mean, there is no doubt that like if you read like Tolkien, a Tolkien passage, or like somebody else really good, like really strong fantasy authors like Rothfuss or Le Guin or like Tchaikovsky, who are very good, even on a line by line basis or a like paragraph by paragraph basis. There is no question about the fact that at the moment, great stories produced by great authors are still far superior to anything that AI can produce. But I think it's still probably going to be worrying to people if we cannot tell even a short piece of flash fiction that the writers didn't have time to prepare and didn't have a lot of time to write and was not an idea that those authors came up with, right? So we are comparing a relative strength of the AI against relative weaknesses of the humans. And Lawrence acknowledged that, and Sanderson acknowledged that, etc. There's a lot more to be said there. And I have probably a lot of other things to say about this and a lot of other things that I'm very uncertain of in regards to AI. But I'm not going to go through all of them right now. So, is AI writing any good? This is what Lawrence's blog post is titled. blah, blah, blah. He did this 2 years ago, it looks like. I'm doing it again to see where things stand. This time I've convinced a number of very accomplished authors, who you will have heard of, to provide the human authored contributions. Hobb is one of those. I think Lawrence himself may be one of those. That might be what Sanderson said. We're doing flash fiction because it's what AI does best, etc. I already talked about that. It is simply asking whether there's currently any format of fiction where readers are unable to tell whether the text they are reading is written by a machine or by an accomplished author. That's a quote from the blog post. Etc., etc. Below are 8 pieces of flash fiction, all of them around 350 words. All of them were written to the prompt, write a piece of flash fiction, I'm talking too fast, based on a demon. For the AI, there were additional, very brief suggestions concerning tone and or setting to generate variety. An example might be, make it romantic and set on a cliff top. And then he says, I've prompted the AI to use, well, I don't know what he's saying here, actually. Whatever. It's not important. Yeah, you can go read this yourself. These pieces were written by writers with significant experience whose books have many readers. They were written fairly quickly and don't represent the white writer's finest work, but they were taken seriously and not written offhand or carelessly. That is also related to what I was just saying. Some of the pieces were written by ChatGPT-5 with minimal prompting. Wait, so how many of these were written by a human and how many of these were written by ChatGPT? Maybe it tells me somewhere, I'm not sure. Maybe it's not intending to tell me. I expect it would make it easier if I knew how many. Given that there are 8 pieces, I might reasonably assume that 4 of them were written by ChatGPT-5 and 4 of them were written by authors. But I don't actually know. That's going to make this harder. Maybe also make a note of your choices so that when the answers are revealed, you don't have to rely on memory. That seems like a good idea. I'm going to open a document and do that, I guess. 5 is the best. 1 is the worst. What? I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to read these things, and then we will see if I am capable of doing that. I may not film the entire reading. I may film it and then cut most of it out. That's probably what's going to happen. But regardless, let's get started. Okay, I read the first one. I think it is decently well written in many ways. It's like reasonably clever, and however, after thinking about it, I'm going to say this is most likely AI. Now, I may revise that because I've only read 1 of the 8 stories, and I want to read all of them before I decide which ones are AI and which ones are real authors. Yeah. I'm going to go on to the next one. So, I read the second one. I'm also a bit unsure about this. I think I actually like this one less than the first one. And I'm also going to preliminarily say that it's probably AI. And I'm worried that I'm going to judge things really harshly and decide that everything's AI. I hope that that does not happen. But we're saying that this second one is possibly also AI. Now on to the third one. Okay, so I am going to say that the third one is probably human. Again, very unsure of that. It's possible that the first one is still the best story so far. But I'm going to go with this is human. I think this is the best writing so far, probably. Not sure. Anyway, next. Okay, my inclination is to say that the fourth one is human, but I am very unsure of that. We will possibly again revise these later. Okay, fifth one. I think this might be the most confident I am so far. I'm pretty sure this is human. I don't think AI usually writes things like, it wore a second-hand suit the color of overripe plums. Um, Admittedly, there are a couple similes and metaphors in here that also seem a bit weird to me. So I'm not certain, but I think that story 5 is human, and yeah, like if this is AI, that's probably not good. Okay, this is not great. Um, Number 6, I think, is also pretty clever. At least moderately clever. I'm going to very tentatively say that it's human, which means that I've had 4 things that I'm tentatively saying are human in a row, which is probably not true. Anyway, we'll see if I revise that after reading the last 2 stories. I'm going to have to take a break from doing this, I believe, so I will finish later. Okay, it is tomorrow, and I'm back. I just read the 7th story. Now, not sure what to make of this story. It does not have very much of a story to it. I don't find it very interesting. I'm not really sure whether or not that has any correlation with whether or not it's AI or human. But I'm going to say for now that this is AI. It seems more likely that this is AI than the previous 4. I do nonetheless think that this story is written decently well. So, again, not really sure what to make of it. We will see how I do with these after I read the next one. Okay, so the last story is fine. It's a fine story. I don't think it's great. I do think it is also one of the weaker ones of these 8, but it doesn't really feel AI to me. So I'm not really sure what to do. I'm very unsure about this last one. Maybe I should reread it and think more. I should probably reread the other one and think more, but I don't think I'm going to do that. So, okay. So, I am very uncertain of like every single one of these. But here we go. First story, these like people who are on an island because like the water keeps the demons out, like it keeps the demons away, and so then they build a bridge to get off the island onto the mainland, and it turns out they were the demons. Like I kind of like that one, but I'm just sticking with my original decisions. I should probably think about them more, but I'm not going to. So we're saying that's AI. Second one is this angel and this demon talking. I'm saying that's AI. Third one, a priest. He goes and fights a demon and then they both die, and etc. These are really short stories, so that basically is just what the story is. Then there's a message at the end of the story that's scrawled on the stones where they fought, and it says like, "Don't pray, fight." Right? Story 4. I am very unsure of this. I really don't know what to do with this story. I said it was human. I'm going to stick with that. I considered switching it after reading the 8th one. It's like weird sex stuff, pretty much. Yeah. 5th story. I said was human, and the reasoning I gave for that before was basically there seemed to be some, like, the imagery in there was pretty specific at a level that I don't think AI usually achieves, but that story could have been AI. Like, it could have been. Most of these stories were written well on a line by line basis. Obviously, including the ones that were AI. Not that I know which ones actually were AI. Story 6 is this, sort of humorous thing about demons possessing bodies, blah, blah, blah. And, you don't actually own your body because one of your ancestors made a deal with, like, a demon, and then, like, the demons, if you, like, treat your body badly by, like, having a bad haircut or whatever, then the demon gets to take possession of your body. Seventh story, again, it's not much of a story. There's just a guy in a room and a demon arrives and takes a copy of Pride and Prejudice and then leaves. Story 8, I am going to say it's AI, even though it didn't really feel like AI. So I don't know. And by the way, if I didn't just say story 6, human, story 7, AI. Okay, now let's go look at what the results for this are. Wait, what are the results for this? How do I find the results? Okay, I will come back after I can figure out which one of these is actually human and which one of these is AI, because it does not appear to tell me here. Okay, so guys, I did in fact fail horribly. The first story, which I should not have said was AI, because I kind of actually liked it. So that was a horrible idea, apparently. The first story was written by Janny Wirtz. Yeah. Story number 2, which I also said was AI, was written by Chris and Miles Cameron. I don't know who those people are. I don't really have any comments there. The votes on this, because I think the voting already, like, happened given the results here, so I didn't participate in it just now, but I will say most other people also said that story 1 was AI, which is interesting. I'm not sure what to think about that. Story 2, I was not in the majority. Story 3, which I said was human, was AI. The vote split there was pretty even if you look at Mark Lawrence's blog. Story 4, which was AI, I said was human. Yeah, that's also one I really should have switched. I kind of was basing that off of the fact that I thought that, honestly, I thought that was Mark Lawrence's story, just based off of his reputation. That was sort of the basis of that, so that was not a good basis for making that decision. What just happened? I don't know. Whatever. I still have the results here, although I can't get out of them. Okay. Story 5, which I said was human. Again, what was story 5? Oh, it was the one... Yeah, I know what it was. Okay. Most people also said it was human, but it was AI. So we are all really bad at figuring this out, which is not great. Story 6, which I said was human. It was, in fact, human. That was Mark Lawrence's actual story. Story 7. Okay, so in this case, I guess good job me and most other people, because this was the weakest story here. I said it was AI. Most people said it was AI. It was AI. However, you could easily attribute that to just me getting lucky. story 8 was Robin Hobb, which is interesting. I do not think that flash fiction most likely is Robin Hobb's strong point. Regardless, I genuinely cannot get out of this where I am. Okay, I got out of it. On his blog, Mark Lawrence writes, he has the results that I just went over. He says, so when it came to choosing, on average, the public got 3 wrong, 3 right, and couldn't decide on 2. I.e., they're no more effective than a coin toss. I believe I am less effective than a coin toss. Although, maybe I would have done better if I'd thought about it more. However, I shouldn't really say that that's true, because it's probably not. 2 of these were too close to be statistically significant, but in some cases the votes were quite certain. A sizable majority of people thought my story was human-authored, and a sizable majority thought Janny's story was AI-authored. I really don't know what to think about that, given how incredibly strong of a reputation Janny Wurts has. I have not read any of her books, but I want to. I don't know what to think about that, but also that was one of the better stories. The writing style just felt sort of AI to me. He says, so it's not that people don't have strong opinions / instincts. It's just that they're no more likely to be correct than tossing a coin. I don't think he can judge the strength of somebody's instincts based off the fact that they answered the question, because here's me doing this. I admit it, I'm very uncertain. I do not have strong opinions / instincts about most of these stories as to whether or not they were AI or human. It's more that I had weak opinions and instincts, and I forced myself to choose. I'm somewhat cold, if you couldn't tell that. I should go inside. Anyway, you guys, if anybody who is a real human being who exists is watching this, I guess I don't know what you should make of that. See you. A couple of minutes later, I am actually going to say one last thing, which is, well, it sounds weird in here, which is that I think one of the main takeaways that I'm going to take away from this is that at least I, and I think most other people, are not capable of doing this based off of analysis of prose. And ultimately, one of the things that is really important to realize about AI is that AI is not a conscious being that can rationally think. It just regurgitates words. And in this case, it's doing that very well. And the only way I think that you can do this reasonably and have a good chance of succeeding is actually basing this, judging the stories based off their quality, which obviously includes the quality of the prose, but in this case, all of these stories were actually written pretty well on a line-by-line basis, and judging them by style did not work for me, and I don't think it worked for anybody else. So I think the only thing that might have worked was judging it based off of whether or not the story actually had a point and a plot that made sense. Just based off the fact that, story 1 definitely had a point. It was human, right? Story 7 definitely didn't. It was AI, etc. Not that that would have worked perfectly for me either, but that's basically one of the takeaways. There are a lot of other things you can get from this, and a lot of other things to say about AI that, again, I'm not going to say here. So, see you.